Welcome, everyone. It is noon, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our June Lunch and Learn on a Chromebook enhancement preview that is coming up this summer. This is our third Lunch and Learn of this year. We're super excited to be hosting them on a monthly basis and excited to have you all join us today for this teaser into a product enhancement that's coming out later this summer. For those of you who haven't joined the Lunch and Learn before, these are short form sessions where you'll learn from Casey Higgs and myself about a way to use Dyknow, a new Dyknow feature, or a new use case for Dyknow so that you can become a better Dyknow user, use Dyknow in different ways, or if you're not a current user, learn a bit more about Dyknow, our product offerings, and how we can help you defeat distractions in your school or district. So today we'll be talking about a Chromebook enhancement preview for our Chromebook users. Before we jump in, for those of you who might not be familiar with Dyknow, Dyknow is primarily a monitoring solution for school-issued devices. So that's for schools with one-to-one devices, whether that be Chromebooks, Macs, or Windows devices. We offer two monitoring solutions, primarily our classroom management solution for teachers to defeat distractions at the classroom level, get real-time visibility into student activity, create blocking plans to block off-task behavior, and engage students with different engagement tools. And then recently, at the beginning of this year, we released our complementary offering, which is device impact measurement for tech coaches and administrators to get that same device usage data, but on a larger scale during all hours of the school day within their monitoring hours, and for all devices and students within their school or district to really understand how devices are being used at the school or district level. So these two offerings really complement each other. If you're not currently using device impact measurement and are using classroom management and are interested in device impact measurement, we'd love to have a conversation with you about how your administrators and tech coaches can get that complete device usage data with device impact measurement. So that's a little overview into Dyknow, and then just a brief overview into myself and Casey before we jump into today's presentation. My name is Tierra. I am the marketing manager here at Dyknow. I've been with Dyknow for a little over 2 years and have really enjoyed getting to know different educators within the industry through our podcast, through our digital events, and other offerings. We're going back in market to in-person events soon, so super excited for that. Look forward to seeing some of you at those events in later this year and early next year. And today, as always, for our Lunch and Learns, I'm joined by Casey Higgs, School Success Director at Dyknow. Casey, I'll let you give a brief introduction to yourself and then jump into the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Tierra. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning if you're on the West Coast. I'm Casey. I've been with Dyknow for about 4 years now, and I manage the school success team, which focuses on onboarding, training, and supporting Dyknow customers. So naturally, I get to talk about the Dyknow product a lot on a day-to-day basis. And that makes today's session really exciting for me because I get to share a new topic, or specifically a new feature with you all. And that is the ability to view all website tabs that are open on a student Chromebook device, select any of those website tabs to become the active tab, and even close out website tabs. So this new feature will be ready in just a few days. We're hoping for, maybe later this week, if not very early next week. So very early July. And of course, we'll make sure to let you know when it is ready. In fact, we notify all current users when any new features like this become available with notifications in the product. So those appear at the top of your screen anytime you log into Dyknow. And like many new product features and product enhancements that we launch, this one specifically was based on customer feedback that we've received. So teachers have been wanting to take advantage of a feature like this to help them keep students on task and really, really stay focused during class time. I do want to point out that this new feature is going to be for use on student Chromebooks only, but I also want to explain why. So each operating system that Dyknow supports, that's Chromebook, Windows, and Mac, each of those operating systems is different, and each certainly has their own advantages. Well, frankly, we feel the need to focus on Chromebooks first with this feature because we feel the need is greater there. Windows and Mac devices already allow teachers to see the entire desktop or like the entire browser view on student Windows and Macs. So let me clarify that a little bit. Currently, when you're a teacher monitoring a student with a Chromebook device, you're really monitoring activity that occurs within the Chrome browser specifically. You're able to really view only the active website tab. And that's the tab that was literally clicked on by the student. Any other website tabs that are also open on, within the browser, they're not actually able to be identified right now. And certainly the overall desktop on a Chromebook is not visible. Well, that's not the case with Windows and Mac devices. When you're monitoring students that are using a Windows device or a Mac device, you already have the benefit of seeing their entire desktop. So that includes web browser activity, and of course, any application as well. So this slide is just trying to lay out, the comparison of all three of these operating systems to help better break it down. You can see here that Windows and Mac devices are pretty similar in that teachers can view the entire student screen when a student is using a Windows or a Mac device, and that includes any browser activity or an application as well. But for Chromebooks, the teacher is only viewing activity that happens in the browser. So it might feel like, a teacher's view is a bit more limited in that sense, but it really does make sense because the way Chromebooks were designed, right? And that is to support mostly web-based activities. And to really drive home this point, I'm going to show you a visual comparison of the different operating systems and what you can see. So this first screenshot I'm showing is the current product. So specifically, I'm a teacher, I'm logged into a monitoring session, and I'm viewing a student's thumbnail in big view. And this is a student on a Chromebook device. So it's clear here that there's no menu tray visible like there would be on a Mac or Windows device. And there aren't any browser tabs visible at all. It's literally just the active website, web page itself. Well, this is what teachers will soon see once we release these new features. You'll be able to see the ability, or excuse me, see all the website tabs that are open on this student's Chromebook. Now, there's still no menu tray or still no desktop that you'll be able to see on a Chromebook. But really what's important is that you'll be able to see all of the different website tabs that are open in that Google Chrome browser. And specifically, which of those website tabs is the active one, the one that's been clicked on by the student. And then again, just to drive home the point, here's a comparison of Windows and Mac devices to the Chromebook. On Windows and Mac devices, you can see that desktop, that menu tray of the desktop, and and also whatever website tabs are already open. So that's part of the screenshot itself. So with Chromebook, we're just adding that feature that Windows and Mac devices already have. Again, that's why we thought it was important to focus on Chromebook first in terms of releasing this new feature. All right, so now that we've covered some of the important differences between those operating systems, we're going to take a closer look at what these actual new features are. So in order to view all of the website tabs that are open on a student's Chromebook device, you'll start a monitoring session like you would do otherwise. Then you will bring that student's device into big view, as you can see on this video, by hovering your mouse over their thumbnail and clicking that blue expand icon. And then once you're in big view, you'll see that those website tabs, all of the ones that are open, are going to be listed across the screen, just across the student thumbnail itself. The active tab is the one that's identified first, and then we list all of the background tabs horizontally. Pretty straightforward, right? Well, what if the student has a ton of tabs open? If there are so many website tabs open and we can only display so many on that horizontal list, you'll see an option towards the right-hand side that says more, and you can click to expand that list to display all of the remaining open tabs on that student's device. So again, not missing a thing, getting that much more visibility into what your students are doing. That's the first part of this feature, the ability to just view everything, view all of the website tabs that are open on a student Chromebook. Not only can you do that, you'll now also be able to select any of those background website tabs to become the active tab. So this is a really easy way to redirect student activity. Let's say, for example, that your students are working on a research project. Research is pretty much individual work in this example. So as the teacher, you don't mind if they're going to listen to music while they're doing their research. Well, let's say that you notice a student has been hanging out a bit too long on YouTube, longer than he should be. So you want to get him back to the research. Well, tabs for websites like YouTube are also going to display an audio icon next to that URL in the tab, if and when audio is playing from that website on that student device. So, whether you actually hear audio playing or not, you did allow it because they're doing research, but whether you actually hear audio playing or not, you'll immediately know which tab that music is playing from because of that audio icon. And this is especially helpful if a student has multiple tabs open for a site like YouTube. So you can easily direct that student back to the research by selecting one of those relevant URLs or one of those relevant tabs from the list of background tabs available. And that makes it the active tab for both you and the student. Similarly, if we keep going with this research example, you might see that a student is referencing several different websites, relevant to his research. Some of these websites are likely to be scholarly, others maybe not so much. So you can use the ability to select the active tab to help redirect the student from maybe a less scholarly website like Wikipedia to something more relevant like an article within Google Scholar. So in this situation, you don't necessarily want to close out the tab for Wikipedia since it's not necessarily off task, right? Technically, the student is doing research, but you do want to encourage the student to use the better site or use the better article, for example, within Google Scholar in this situation. So what happens then if a student really is off task? The third part of this new feature enhancement is about the ability to close out specific website tabs on a student Chromebook device. So if you notice that a student is on a website they shouldn't be on, you would bring that student thumbnail into big view if we weren't here already. Then you simply locate that tab or that URL in the list, and then click that X icon to close it out. If you close out one of the website tabs that's a background tab, that tab is simply going to disappear from the student's view. And then therefore, the tab will also disappear from the thumbnail view that you're seeing as the teacher. But if you close the active website tab, so the one that the student has already clicked on, that of course will disappear from the student's view. But what's important is that the next background tab that's available will then become their active tab. And remember that thumbnails in big view take 15 seconds or so to refresh. So you might not see that new thumbnail image immediately, but you can always click that purple refresh button to make sure it's accurate as well. But the activity tracker, of course, and the current activity in big view will always show the most recent activity, or excuse me, the active activity. Awesome. So there are three parts to that feature, just to quickly recap. The ability to view all website tabs that are open on a student's Chromebook, the ability to select one of the background tabs to be the active tab on the Chromebook, and then third, the ability to close out either the active or one of the background tabs on a student Chromebook. And there's one more piece that I want to mention relevant to these new features, and that's how they show up in class history. So if you recall, class history is going to be that paper trail of everything that happened within your monitoring session. And anytime a teacher closes a tab on a student's Chromebook, it's being counted in class history. So when class has ended, your monitoring session is over, you're always redirected to the class history page now to review the results of that session, right? Well, now you'll find any tabs that you've closed out on a student Chromebook during that session are going to be tallied in the blocked activity as a distraction defeated. So in terms of functionality, that's really it. That's what's coming. The ability to view all open website tabs on a Chromebook, select one of those tabs in the background to be the active tab, and finally, the ability to close out either the active or any background tabs that are open on a student Chromebook. So now I want to talk quickly about the effects of using these features. I really think it's important that we talk about this. I think it's important that teachers consider what the relational impacts or the relational consequences of using and maybe overusing this feature might be. For example, let's say that you see among those background tabs on a student's Chromebook a website that you're not familiar with. Probably pretty common. So you click on it because you're curious and you just want to see what it is. Well, it sounds like no big deal, and quite frankly, it probably isn't a big deal. But just remember that this also then changes the active tab for that student, and they don't receive a notification about it. So while the dynamic, is really intuitive, I think, and you, of course, as a teacher, understand what's going on because you're the one that did it. I really encourage you to think about what's happening for your student. Have you communicated with them so they understand what just happened, why the tabs changed? Or, are they going to be left confused, potentially thinking there's something wrong with their computer and just open that tab up again? What if you start clicking through all of the tabs that are open? Not only might the student feel, it might feel a little invasive for that student, but they're also not going to be able to get much work done if they can't stay on the same website tab, for more than a few seconds. So all of this is just why I recommend, not only considering the student's perspective here when you're using these new features, but also I recommend using them in conjunction with blocking plans. So imagine again for a second that you're only using this new ability to close tabs to keep students on task. Well, you'll probably find pretty quickly that you're in a game of cat and mouse. And, that's only going to distract you from teaching. And in addition, it's probably not going to help your students learn to use their devices more responsibly. Whereas on the other hand, if you create and enforce even the most basic blocking plan, you'll have peace of mind that students are staying on task and you can still supplement with the closed tabs feature, especially for quizzes and tests. Using the closed tabs feature alone isn't going to help you ensure that students are staying on task. Blocking plans in those situations especially are always going to be the best approach to ensure testing integrity. So when these features do come out, try them in tandem with blocking plans. They might help you, again, just supplement whatever blocking plans you're creating and make you feel more confident about creating maybe a less restrictive blocking plan because you do have the ability to catch students that are off task or maybe on something less relevant to the class instruction to help keep them focused. All right, so I will wrap this up like I have all previous Lunch and Learn sessions, and that's by talking about Dyknow support. I remind you that at the beginning of this presentation, I spoke about this new feature and how it came about, and that's because of user feedback. So I really, really can't stress enough how much we value your feedback and how effective it can be. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. My new favorite line is that we are so much more than just a standard troubleshooting resource. Of course, we're here to help you with anything like that as well. But all feedback is a gift, and we really encourage you to reach out with anything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's again all I have. I'll pass it back to Tierra to see if we have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Casey, for previewing that. I think it's really helpful to see the current state of blocking and monitoring within a Chromebook versus what's going to be coming out in the next week or two. We had a couple questions come in the chat that I want to get answered, and then also had a few questions come up before the event. So first question is from Kristen, and she asks, what if a student on a Chromebook has multiple windows open within the same profile, but they have multiple windows open? That is how they're getting around being monitored right now. Does this new enhancement solve that problem, or how does that work with windows versus tabs?
Really great question. So this new feature will be able to show you all of the browsers or all of the browser tabs that are open within the Google Chrome browser, even if they have multiple windows open. I definitely like to follow up with you, Kristen, after the fact, because students shouldn't be able to get around Dyknow at all, no matter what website tab or browser they're using. Um, so I'd love to follow up there and make sure that, we can do some basic troubleshooting to make sure everything's working as it should. But yes, this new feature will provide so much more visibility to help you, again, see what students are doing, no matter which tab or how many browser windows they have open.
Perfect. And then the next question that came in, which I think might have already been addressed, is from I think Anna Morales, and she asks, "I would like to practice using new feature over the summer. Can I give access to my teaching assistants and teachers?"
Yes. So as soon as this feature is released, you'll be able to use it. Um, And if you'd like to share usage, all you need to do is make sure that those teaching assistants have access to Dyknow as a user. Your administrator can help you with that. But once they are a user, you can simply add them as co-teacher to any of your existing classes to test out the feature. Now, you'll also want to keep in mind how you're testing the feature in terms of what student devices you're using. An administrator would be the best one to reach out to about that as well, to make sure that you're appropriately monitoring students if you can, say if they're still being monitored during a summer school class. If not, it might be best to work with your administrator to get another test or just sample student device up and running so you can test it out. But really great question.
Perfect. Yeah. And then a couple questions that came in prior to the event. One really great question that came in asking, since now teachers will be able to close out website tabs on Chromebooks, can they also open new tabs for students? How much control do they have there?
Really great question. I'm glad this one came up actually. Um, so yeah, now that we have the ability to close out tabs, you want to know about opening them. Well, we actually already have the ability to open website tabs on any student device. So whether that's Chromebook, Windows, or Mac, any teacher can open a new website tab for a student, but it happens through the send a message feature. So I think sometimes maybe it can be overlooked. If you go to the send a message feature, you'll select a custom message, and that's what allows you to type out whatever you want and send it to a student. Well, if that custom message includes a URL, that URL will automatically open for the student in a new website, in a new website tab. So that feature already exists. You may just feel like it's a little bit hidden because it's within the send a message feature. But again, that is for any operating system. So you can already use that today, and I definitely encourage you to use it. Not only is it a great way to keep students on task and focused, but it's a great way to help students transition maybe from topic A to B by really just forcing them to go to the URL that you want them to view. So every student is on the same page when you make that transition.
Yeah, we also released a Dyknow Digest episode outlining how to push out URLs through messages and use the messaging feature. So encourage anyone who's interested in doing that. Head to our YouTube page. You can find kind of a tutorial on that there. And we find that's super popular among elementary teachers to really save time with students, especially in those transition periods. Last question that came in, which I think we've already answered, but how can you tell what site the student is using if they're out of the browser? This might not necessarily apply to the Chromebook because they're all going to be within the same browser. But is there anything you want to add to answer that question?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. So the out of browser message is only going to appear if you're monitoring a student Chromebook. And that's because the student has clicked outside of the web browser, maybe into an application or maybe even onto their own desktop. Dyknow's not going to be able to show you that activity. Dyknow is only showing you the in-browser activity. So to answer this question, you simply won't know what website they were last on because they've clicked out of it. So you might even physically still see the browser window on their device, but if their mouse has clicked on the desktop, then that browser or that website page is no longer considered active. So we're not going to be able to show it. Really good question. I'm glad we were able to clarify that one.
Yeah, that is a good clarification. And Anna will follow up with you. She submitted another question just about getting set up with getting access to this feature. So Anna, will reach out to you after the event and get you started with that and answer any additional questions that you have. Other than that, I don't think we have any other questions that came in. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you, Casey, for a great presentation. For all of you who were able to attend live, you will receive a recording of this session. So if you want to share it with other teachers, tech coaches, admins in your school to spread the word about this new feature, feel free. And if you registered and weren't able to attend live, we'll also send you the recording after the fact. And please, everyone, join us for our next Lunch and Learn, which will be on the last Friday in July. And that topic is TBD right now, but we will announce it when we have it. Thank you again, Casey, for a great presentation. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yay.